and good morning, friends. Welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on organization behavior, today we would be discussing on one of the most interesting and important topic. And the topic today is factors affecting knowledge sharing. We would be discussing two important factors such as interpersonal factors as well as organizational factors. And for this very discussion, we have once again with us in our studios Mr. Amok Talan. Mr. Amok Talan is Assistant Professor in Department of Commerce, College of Vocational Studies, University of Delhi. So let's welcome our guest, Mr. Amok Talan, and let's try to understand the two important factors affecting knowledge sharing, that is interpersonal and organizational. Hello, sir. Welcome to the District lecture.
In last lecture regarding knowledge sharing, I discussed about the meaning of knowledge sharing, the significance of knowledge sharing, and the impact of knowledge sharing. In this lecture, I'm going to discuss about the important factors which affect knowledge sharing in an organizational settings. These factors can basically be divided in two parts. They could either be interpersonal factors or they could be organizational factors. Interpersonal factors would be the factors arising among the employees and the relationship between the employees and the manager themselves. Say, for example, the motivational factors, the leadership factors, the personality, the attitudes of the employees and the managers as well, the emotional intelligence factor, the trust factor. These are the interpersonal factor. On the organizational factor note, they could be organizational structure, organizational culture, and organizational attitude as a whole. So let's start this with the interpersonal factor, and one of the most important interpersonal factor that I'm going to discuss is the motivation. So basically, motivation can be divided in two parts. It could be either extrinsic or intrinsic motivation. In extrinsic motivation is kind of motivation in which employee is to be motivated through external factors, and it's of a tangible nature. On the other hand, the intrinsic factor of motivation is non-tangible, and employee enjoys to work in an organization. That's a kind of intrinsic factor. It could be altruism, it could be knowledge self-efficacy. If an employee is confident about his knowledge in an organizational and he's willing to share it with others, that would be considered as an intrinsic motivational factor. Another intrinsic motivational factor would be altruism. If employees intrinsically likes to share his knowledge with others, that would be considered intrinsic motivation. So basically, knowledge has been identified as key determinant of general behavior, information technology acceptance behavior, and work-related behavior. And there is an indication that it is the primary trigger for knowledge transfer. So basically, extrinsic motivation, as I said, being tangible and being extrinsic or external in nature, would comprise of rewards and the salary and the other benefits that an employee derives from the organizational, that is the external factors. On the other hand, intrinsic motivation would comprise of the factors that employee derives from within, that is, it could be divided in two parts, which is knowledge self-efficacy and the altruism. Through these two factors, the employee derives the pleasure and inherent satisfaction derived from certain specific activity. So basically, when that employee is engaged in knowledge sharing activities, if he's intrinsically motivated, he's going to derive his satisfaction from within by sharing the knowledge. On the other hand, if he's extrinsically motivated, that is, in that situation, the organizational would provide him with rewards and incentives to allow him or to motivate him to share knowledge. So let's talk about these factors in detail. Basically, employees' extrinsic motivation and knowledge sharing, the relationship can be described as when employees engage in knowledge sharing exchange based on cost-benefit analysis and comparing the rewards or benefits expected from an exchange with the efforts or costs involved in that exchange, that would be considered to be extrinsic motivational factors. If the perceived benefits equal or exceeds the costs, then the exchange process will continue, otherwise it will stop. Basically, the employee here in this situation is comparing what he is deriving from the organization in return for the activity of knowledge sharing. If he is getting enough benefits rather than the costs, then he is going to continue to exchange or share knowledge, otherwise he would not. Basically, the costs of knowledge sharing here suggests the efforts undertaken by the knowledge bearer, by the employees, or by the manager in order to share knowledge, and the time also taken by the employee or the managers in order to exchange or share knowledge. In the context of knowledge sharing, the costs include factors to effort, time taken, or mental effort, while the potential gain include receiving organizational rewards or creating obligations for colleagues to reciprocate. So basically, organizational rewards can range from monetary incentives such as increased salary and bonuses to non-monetary rewards such as promotions and job security, which can be intangible but is extrinsic in nature. So basically, in extrinsic motivation, the employee derives his motivation from the organization. Organization proves to be an incentive provider. In return of those incentives, the employee shares knowledge with others or with the managers in the organization. Several organizations have introduced reward systems to encourage employees to share their knowledge. For example, Buckman Laboratories recognizes its 100 top knowledge contributors through an annual conference at a resort, and Lotus Development, a division of IBM, bases 25% of the total performance evaluation of its customer support workers on the extent of their knowledge sharing activity. So these are the real life examples that we see organization trying to promote knowledge sharing in the organization. It is very important for organization to motivate their employees so that they can share their unique knowledge with other employees, which would help organization to innovate and to grow further. So another factor of knowledge sharing is reciprocal benefit. Generally, an exchange relationship can involve both economic resources, money, goods and services, and socio-emotional resources such as status, devotion and trust. Reciprocity behavior can provide a sense of mutual indebtedness, leading knowledge contributors to generally accept help from others, ensuring ongoing supportive knowledge sharing. So basically, an organization, an employee would seek from other employees or the organization or the manager to reciprocate their behavior. If they are sharing knowledge with the organization or with another employees, they expect something in return from them. So basically, that something in return could be either knowledge sharing from their part, or it could be rewards or benefit, or it could be a status symbol. They want recognition, they want power in the organization, and if they get it in return of the activity of knowledge sharing, only then the knowledge sharing activity would be successful. Then employee intrinsic motivation and knowledge sharing. Intrinsic motivation refers to engaging in an activity for its own sake, out of interest or for the pleasure and satisfaction derived from the experience. For example, through knowledge sharing, employees can be satisfied by enhancing their knowledge self-efficacy or confidence in their ability to provide knowledge that is useful to the organization. So basically intrinsic motivation, in that one of the important areas of intrinsic motivation is knowledge self-efficacy. Basically self-efficacy is the confidence that a knowledge sharing, knowledge bearer would have regarding the type of knowledge that he possesses. If he is confident that the knowledge that he possesses is important and would be useful to the organization and other employees or the management, then he is going to feel more confident in order to share that particular knowledge. On the other hand, knowledge self-efficacy, another part of intrinsic motivation, altruism. In altruism, he is going to enjoy knowledge sharing by his nature inherent, which cannot be influenced by other external factors. If he is going to enjoy sharing knowledge, then he is going to share knowledge irrespective of the other external factors. So basically altruism is the enjoyment in helping others, derived from the concept of altruism. Organ, who is our author, defined altruism as including discretionary behaviors that help specific others with organizationally relevant tasks or problems. Knowledge workers may be motivated by relative altruism owing to their desire to help others. Another important factor which promotes knowledge sharing is interpersonal trust. Basically, interpersonal trust is when a party is willing to be vulnerable to the actions of another party based on the expectations that the other will perform a particular action important to the truster, irrespective of the ability to monitor or control that other party, which is an attitude-like construct, an expectation related to past experience and focused on specific others such as managers or peers. So basically, when you trust someone, you are making yourself vulnerable to on that or to the actions of that other person or the organization or the management. So basically, you trust someone to do something for you, to do something in return for you. So when you are going to trust someone, you are going to share more knowledge with those people or with the organization. And if the interpersonal trust is lesser, then you are not going to share knowledge or engage in other interpersonal activities with those employees or the management or the organization. Interpersonal trust in the workplace has been shown to have a strong and robust influence on variety of organizational phenomena, including job satisfaction, stress, organizational commitment, productivity, and knowledge sharing, among others. Trust leads to increased overall knowledge exchange, makes knowledge exchange less costly, and increases the likelihood that the knowledge acquired from a colleague is sufficiently understood and absorbed that person can put it to use. So basically, when you trust someone, the cost of knowledge sharing would decrease and the benefit would increase. The benefit in this situation would be the satisfaction derived from helping that particular person. So basically, when you trust someone, it's going to increase your intrinsic motivation. So basically, intrinsic motivation and interpersonal trust are also related to each other, which together as a whole influence knowledge sharing activities. So basically, they increase that particular benefit of altruism while decreasing the cost. The cost of knowledge sharing in this situation would be your lesser trust in that particular person. If you are going to trust someone, then you are going to bound to feel more confident to share that knowledge with that particular person, because you know that person is not going to misuse that particular information against you or against the organization. So that would be reduction of the cost and increase in the benefits in your mind, and that would initiate the activities of knowledge sharing. Precursors of interpersonal trust include environmental and contextual factors and malleable relational features such as shared language and shared vision, length of their association, and propensity to trust, which is an interpersonal characteristic. So basically, let's talk about propensity to trust. Propensity to trust or a trait trust is essentially a tendency to make attributions of people's action in either an optimistic or pessimistic fashion. A person with high propensity to trust assumes that most people are fair, honest, and have good intentions. Persons low in trust see others as selfish, devious, and potentially dangerous. Trust in coworkers and tacit knowledge sharing. In my last lecture, I discussed that knowledge sharing had two parts. It's either explicit or tacit in nature. When it's tacit in nature, you are talking about the knowledge that cannot be written or that cannot be exchanged through written documents, but is transferred from one person to another through interpersonal experiences. So, given that knowledge, sharing tacit knowledge is a form of sharing power with others, it takes trust for individuals to share tacit knowledge with their co-workers, because trust may reduce perceived uncertainty, facilitate risk-taking behaviors, and foster a constructive orientation that consequently enhances their willingness to share tacit knowledge with their co-workers. Accordingly, it was reported that developing organizational commitment, trust, and motivation from workers represents one of the key issues in relation to the management of knowledge workers, because workers with strong organizational commitment and high levels of trust in co-workers are likely to provide extra discretionary efforts and are generally willing to share their tacit knowledge within the organization. Next important factor is organizational culture and organizational climate. There is a distinction between organizational culture and climate. Organizational culture and climate basically relate to either your perspective or the perspective of the employees and the time frame within which we are talking about it. So basically, Dennison argues that the difference between organizational culture and organizational climate is one of perspective rather than substance. The literature on organizational culture and the literature on organizational climate addresses a common phenomena: the creation and influence of social context in organizations. Climate basically refers to a contextual situation at a point in time, and its link to the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of organizational members. Thus, it is temporal, subjective, and often subject to direct manipulation by employees with power and influence. So basically, when we are talking about organizational climate, we are talking about the factors which influence in shorter amount of time rather than longer, and which are pertinent to a particular area or the organizational location, and not the organization as a whole, which may be spread across the entire country or in the entire world. So basically, it's restricted to the geographical area and also to the time frame. So basically, the reward system, leadership, and management support comprises of the organizational climate, which may change from time to time. But organizational culture is a longer term phenomena which is spread over a longer period of time and is spread across the organization irrespective of the location of the particular office or the department. So basically, culture, in contrast, refers to an evolved context within which specific situations are embedded. Thus, it is rooted in the history, collectively held, and sufficiently complex to resist attempts at direct manipulation. Nonaka emphasized the importance of organizational culture background by arguing that tacit knowledge is deeply rooted in an organization's action and experiences, as well as in his or her ideas, values, and mental models. Ruggles found that from his survey of 431 US and European firms that organizational culture is one of the biggest impediments of organization-wide knowledge sharing. Based on a study of 50 companies, DeLong found that benefits of a new technology infrastructure were limited if long-standing organizational values and practices were not supportive of knowledge sharing across units. A culture that emphasizes trust has been found to help alleviate the negative effects of perceived costs on knowledge sharing and firms' capability of knowledge exchange and combination. So basically, I talked about costs and benefits of knowledge sharing. An employee or a manager would be willing to exchange his particular knowledge set only when he believes that the benefits exceed the costs of that particular knowledge sharing. If the culture of the organization influences that particular employee in a way that he perceives the benefit of knowledge sharing to be greater than the cost of knowledge sharing, then he is going to engage in the knowledge sharing activity. Organization can ensure that particular process through different initiatives, through encouraging employees to by letting them know that if they share knowledge, they are going to be either rewarded or reciprocated, or maybe some particular form of training would be provided to them. So basically, they would realize that the benefit, if they share knowledge, would be greater than the cost. In addition to trust, research has also shown organizations with culture emphasizing innovation are more likely to implement intranet knowledge management systems and facilitate information sharing through subjective norms that encourage knowledge sharing. When we talk about organizational climate in the context of knowledge sharing, the different aspects of organizational climate are critical drivers of knowledge sharing, such as reward system linked to knowledge sharing, open leadership climate, and top management support. Knowledge sharing does not happen automatically in a team, and the team's leader has an important role to play in making it come about. Empowering leadership can be contrasted with autocratic leadership, and one of the central differences in the outcome is that autocratic leadership inhibits knowledge sharing by team members. Thus, knowledge sharing is a potentially important benefit of empowering leadership. House and Dessler defined a supportive leader, support being one of the aspects of the empowering leader, as someone who provides guidance to followers, treats them fairly, and recognizes their inputs as valuable. So basically, leadership is one of the important factors in the organizational climate. When a leader is not autocratic, that is, he gives freedom to the employees and he allows them to take initiatives, to take actions, and is more free with them and is more reward sharing with them, then he would be better able to encourage those employees to share their knowledge without any fear. If he is going to be of supportive nature, and if he is going to be more fair with his employees, that is, if one employee share his knowledge with others and another employee shares the similar kind of knowledge with others, a fair leader would be one who would award the both employees in a similar fashion. On the other hand, an autocratic leader would be more subjective and would award only the person or the employee which he deems fit to be awarded, rather than based on the actual efforts made by that particular employee in knowledge sharing. So accordingly, team members are likely to receive fair recognition by an empowering leader for their contribution of ideas and information, which motivates them to share their unique knowledge with one another. Similarly, participative decision making and coaching behaviors of an empowering leader will also encourage knowledge sharing in teams. When a leader models and engages in participative decision making, there are more opportunities for team members to share their ideas. For example, a leader may give team members a chance to voice their opinions and encourage them to express suggestions. According to Arnold, the coaching behavior of an empowering leader includes encouraging team members to solve problems together, thereby providing them with opportunities to share their knowledge. Callaway and Barling have suggested that transformational leadership may be a potential predictor of knowledge use in organization. The presence of knowledge sharing technology may be a symbol of management support. If management spends a significant amount of resources on either purchasing or developing and implementing such technology, employees could interpret this as signal of management support for this ideal and act accordingly. According to Berg, in 2005, an organizational climate conducive to knowledge sharing, that is operationalized here as fairness, innovativeness and affiliation, exerts a strong influence on the formation of subjective norms regarding knowledge sharing, and it also directly affects through less strongly individuals' intentions to engage in knowledge sharing behaviors. An organizational climate that emphasizes individual competition may pose a barrier to knowledge sharing, whereas a cooperative team perception helps create trust, a necessary condition for knowledge sharing. So basically there is a relationship between interpersonal trust and knowledge sharing, in which there is an interference of the management support. That is, if the management is supportive enough, it's going to generate more interpersonal trust in the employees, which we talked about earlier, and its benefit regarding knowledge sharing. So basically, management support and the leadership can encourage trust among employees, or the employees' trust on the organization or the management, which will initiate knowledge sharing procedures. In that, the manager has to be more fair with the employees, and he has to be more strongly related to those employees and their attitudes, and they have to encourage through proper reward system or through proper promotion or through proper training to initiate knowledge transfers in the organization. Supervisory control, that is, perceived supervisor influence over utilizing the knowledge management systems in the organization appropriately, was a significant predictor of individual effort, which was related to the frequency of knowledge sharing. Liao found that a manager's control of rewards for desired behavior, that is, reward power, and the employee's belief that the manager had knowledge and expertise in the area, that is, expert power, were positively related to employees' self-reported knowledge sharing. Another one of the important factors which affect knowledge sharing is organizational structure. So basically, a functionally segmented structure likely inhibits knowledge sharing across functions and communities of practices. Researchers have shown that knowledge sharing may be facilitated by having a less centralized organizational structure, creating a work environment that encourages interaction among employees, such as through the use of open workspace, use of fluid job descriptions and job rotation, and encouraging communication across departments and informal meeting. welcome everyone. In the last session, we started talking about the organizational factors which influence knowledge sharing. Before that, we talked about certain interpersonal factors such as motivation, trust, among others, which influence knowledge sharing. In organizational factors, we are going to talk about organizational structure and the attitudes. So basically, organizational structure, as we talked, relates to the use of open workspace, use of fluid job descriptions and job rotation, and encouraging communication across departments and informal meetings. So basically, it means how management has defined the organizational structure regarding the communication channels and the job descriptions of the employees, which are the embedded components of the employees and the organizational characteristics, which may promote knowledge sharing or either inhibit it. So basically, if an organization has a goal to encourage knowledge sharing, they are going to have an organizational structure more conducive to knowledge sharing by providing job descriptions which are more fluid. That is, if someone has been given particular job where he is supposed to do nothing more than what he is being told to do, then he is going to hold back certain ideas or certain innovation which he deems may be useful to the organization, but he may be unwilling to share with them, with other employees or with the management, those particular ideas just because he's been asked not to do anything beyond the particular job description. On the other hand, if management encourages that particular employees to share anything that comes to their mind beyond the job description given to them and be engaged in more meetings or informal communications with other employees, that is having a less formal information system or communication channels in the organization, that is going to encourage knowledge sharing activities or behaviors in the organization. Team characteristics and processes are another organizational factors which influence knowledge sharing. The longer a team has been formed and the higher the level of team cohesiveness, the more likely team members are to share knowledge. Deveris examined team communication styles, agreeable and extrovert styles, and found that they were positively associated with knowledge sharing, willingness, and behavior. Another factor is social networks and ties. Tie strength characterizes the closeness of a relationship between two parties and is usually operationalized as a combination of closeness and interaction frequency. At the dyadic or two-party level, research has found advantages of both strong and weak ties. In a study performed on how people find jobs, theorized that weak ties, those characterized as distant and by infrequent interaction, were more likely to be source of novel information because strong ties tend to be connected to others who are close to knowledge seeker and so likely to be trafficking in information that the seeker already knows. Subsequently, research on the importance of weak ties has demonstrated that they can be instrumental not only to finding a job but also to diffusion of ideas and technical advice. So basically, when we are talking about weak ties, it talks about different interactions among individuals where they are not strongly related to or connected to each other. In that situation, weak ties could also be beneficial to knowledge sharing because in a situation where there is strong ties, employees are basically would tend to share that particular knowledge set which the other employees is already familiar with, because they already know that particular person and they interact with them so frequently because of the strong ties, they are likely to share only the used knowledge. On the other hand, when there is weak ties or when there are particular employees or management which interact with each other at certain amount of period of time and not very regularly, they are going to share more innovative and more knowledgeable resources with the other person. On the other hand, strong ties have been claimed important because they are more accessible and willing to be helpful. In fact, many studies have shown that overall strong ties are of greater benefit to the recipient of useful knowledge. That does not mean that if there is weaker ties, only then the knowledge sharing activities are going to be more beneficial. Stronger ties are found to be even of greater use compared to weaker ties in order to promote knowledge sharing. That is because the interaction between the individual, even though it's very often and even though they may share most of the knowledge that they share with each other, they may be already familiar with. However, they at times are going to share innovative knowledge as and when they come across it, rather than wait for a particular time or for a particular occasion before sharing it, which is the case in the weaker ties. So basically, when an employee who has a stronger tie with, say, management, that is, he interacts with the management very often and at regular interval of time, is going to share anything that comes across in the mind of that particular employee, so that it can encourage the innovation and the ideas in the management. Another interpersonal factors which influence is the individuals or the employees' attitudes. Individuals' expectations of the usefulness of their knowledge, and that through sharing they can improve relationships with others, have been shown to be related to positive knowledge sharing attitudes, which in turn were related to knowledge sharing intentions and behaviors. Lin and Lee investigated senior managers' perceptions of encouraging knowledge sharing among employees rather than those of individual sharers. They found that managers' intention of encouragement was positively related to employees' knowledge sharing. In addition, studies have found that organizational attitudes, including job satisfaction and organizational commitment, also foster knowledge sharing. So basically, attitudes again can be characterized either the attitudes of the individuals or the attitudes of the organization. When we are talking about attitudes of the organization, it basically talks about what organization expects from their employees. That is the culture or the climate, which are also related to the attitudes, which can be either encouraging to the commitment of the employees or their job satisfaction levels. These attitudes could encourage knowledge sharing among employees. On the other hand, when we are talking about attitudes in the individual, it's talk about the perception of those particular employees regarding the knowledge sharing. If they are going to share knowledge, they need to perceive that particular knowledge as useful, or they may need to perceive that sharing that particular knowledge is going to be beneficial to them in terms of awards or in terms of internal satisfaction. Another important individual factors that encourage knowledge sharing is interpersonal justice. Schepers found procedural justice to be positively related to perception of knowledge sharing among employees. Using part-time business administration students in Taiwan in a research conducted by Lin, they found that both distributive and procedural justice had positive indirect effect on tacit knowledge sharing through organizational commitment, while distributive justice also influenced knowledge sharing through trust in coworkers. Then one of the most important interpersonal factor we talk about is inherent in the nature of those particular employees, and that is personality. when we are talking about personality, it is basically the predisposition in the employees' attitudes which may encourage or hinder their knowledge sharing processes. So basically, personality refers to the individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Personality, being a cross-situational and highly stable attribute, has been known to explain the variation in a variety of human actions and behaviors and choices. The 5-factor model, or another name for this 5-factor model is Big Five personality, best explains the variability in personality traits, making it the most comprehensive and widely used measure of personality. Goldberg proposed that 5-factor model comprising of 5 dimensions of personality, nicknamed the Big Five, comprising of openness to experience, extraversion, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and emotional stability. So personality can be characterized as having 5 attributes to it. It could be extraversion, it could be openness to experience, it could be conscientiousness, it could be agreeableness, and it could be emotional stability, which these attributes are particularly going to influence the knowledge sharing activities in the employees. And these attributes are inherent in the nature of those employees, and these are likely not to be changed over a particular amount of time. So basically, when we talk about these 5 factors, say for example, if an employee is extrovert compared to being introvert, he is going to share more knowledge with the organization or with other employees, because he is going to be more confident in the knowledge sharing activities or in dealing with other employees or with the management. Similarly, if an employee who is more open to experiences is going to explore and be of innovative nature, and he is going to engage in more activities conducive to knowledge sharing. Similarly, if he is more or lesser emotionally stable, if he is more emotionally stable, he is going to be more content with his emotions, and he is going to control his feelings, and he is going to know what to say and at what particular time to say particular things, and he is going to say more relevant things to other employees. So let's study these factors in more detail. Individuals high in agreeableness personality are characterized as being helpful, good-natured, forgiving, generous, cheerful, courteous, and cooperative. Such people can easily maintain close relationship owing to their friendly nature. Former studies have suggested that people with high agreeableness never feel hesitate to share their information, experience, and best practices. Then openness to experience a variety of interests, feeling flexibility of thoughts, inventiveness, inclination to develop novel ideas, and their receptivity. Since openness is associated with active imagination, attentiveness to inner feelings, intellectual curiosity, originality, preference for variety, thus individual having openness characteristic is more likely to participate in knowledge sharing. Then neuroticism, comprising various negative moods such as anxiety, sadness, and nervousness tendencies, it can be expected that individuals high in neuroticism would not interact and share knowledge with others. So, on the other hand, extraversion is characterized by individuals' tendency to be sociable, assertive, active, bold, energetic, adventurous, and expressive. Thus, it could be said that individuals who display high extraversion would participate more in knowledge sharing. Studies conducted have also shown that extraversion to be positive influence knowledge. It positively influences knowledge sharing. A recent study by Wang in 2011 reported that extrovert individuals who share their knowledge, whether there is reward attached to it or not. A possible explanation for this finding can be a relationship between extroversion and the need to gain status as suggested by Berg. So basically, people who are extrovert, it's in their nature to share knowledge because they interact with other people more. So basically, when they are not even getting any benefit from that particular knowledge, even if they are organization is not rewarding them for the particular knowledge sharing activities, or they are not confident, they are not even confident about the particular knowledge that they hold, that is, there is lesser knowledge self-efficacy. Even in that case, they are going to share more knowledge just because they interact with people more and they are more free to express their feelings with other people. Then Mount describes the characteristic of individual with high conscientiousness such as dependable, dutiful, organized, responsible, achievement oriented and hardworking. A significant relationship of conscientiousness to knowledge sharing is found by Metzler as well as Wang and Jiang. On the contrary, studies conducted by Cabrera reported non-significant relationship between conscientiousness and knowledge sharing. So basically, most of these studies find that there is a positive influence of conscientiousness aspect of personality on knowledge sharing, because those persons find themselves more dependable and more organized with other persons in the organization, with the management and with the organization, and they are more hardworking as well. So when they are working harder and are more organized regarding their knowledge, they are tend to find more knowledge and they are going to be more innovative in their actions and they are going to share more knowledge. Then one of the important factors again regarding knowledge sharing is work engagement. Work engagement is basically the conceptualization of work engagement comprises a state of well-being characterized by high levels of energy that are invented in work, but the concept also makes reference to involvement, being dedicated, enthusiastic and inspired by one's work, and commitment, being engrossed and attached to one's work. So basically, when there is more work engagement, when employee is more engaged with the organization, it involves three dimensions: vigor, dedication and absorption. That is, how much he enjoys doing his work, how much he is attached to his work and how much he is attached to his organization. If he is going to be more attached with his organization, he is going to pursue that particular work more vigorously and he is going to be more dedicated to his work and he is going to be more absorbed in his work. That is, he would be more likely to wait to go to work rather than stay home for a leave. Hence, he is going to be more interactive with that organization and the employees working in that organization, making him to share more knowledge. Empirical research on work engagement have reported that high levels of engagement leads to enhanced organizational commitment, increased job satisfaction, lower absenteeism and turnover rates, improved health and well-being, more extra role behaviors, higher performance, and a greater exhibition of personal initiative, proactive behavior, and learning motivation. In research conducted among the students of a university, Tang found employee engagement to be negatively associated with knowledge concealing and positively with knowledge sharing. Chen found work engagement to promote knowledge sharing by reducing task and relationship conflicts. Now, another factor which we talk about in encouraging knowledge sharing activities is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is very similar to the personality aspect, neuroticism, that is emotional stability. However, emotional intelligence is a much broader aspect compared to the personality, in that emotional intelligence inhibits certain characteristics such as managing own and others' emotions, as well as being aware of your own and others' emotions around you. These aspects are not present in the personality aspect of emotional stability. So basically, emotional awareness and emotional management abilities have important consequences for performance within teams, helping to maintain effective and appropriate relationship with fellow workers, contributing to better information exchanges and decision making in teams, and facilitating functional conflict resolution rather than dysfunctional conflict resolution in teams. So when we are talking about emotional intelligence, it has 4 dimensions, as I mentioned, which is awareness and management of own emotions and awareness and management of emotions of other individuals. When we are talking about awareness of own emotions involves being in touch with one's own moment-to-moment feelings. Silva in 2002 has demonstrated that high emotional self-awareness acts as hindrance on individuals' experience of intense emotions, whether they are positive or negative emotions. Hence, it can be said that individuals with high emotional self-awareness will experience more moderate emotional reactions in response to intense emotion triggering situations, and therefore can communicate more effectively with their team members. Hence, when an individual is more aware of his own emotions, when he knows that he is angry or when he knows when he is anxious, he is more likely to control those particular emotions, and he is going to manage situations much better compared to other employees who are not aware of their emotions. Hence, they are less likely to engage in emotional outbursts or particular phenomena which may make them more emotional at times, hindering the knowledge sharing procedure. Another aspect is management of own emotion. When a particular individual is more aware, an individual's ability to connect or disconnect from the emotion depending on its usefulness in any given situation can be termed as management of own emotion. This has been exhibited in the individual's ability to hold back on immediate reactions and delay judgment. That is, when an individual has already been aware of his particular emotions, he is going to be able to manage those particular emotions much better compared to other employees. Similarly, when a person is able to be aware of emotions of other individuals or others in the management, he would be better able to manage those particular emotions as well. Awareness of other emotions can be said to tackle negative emotions. It is essential to first be able to accurately read the emotions and distinguish between emotions expressed. So, when the emotions of other individuals can be recognized by the employees, they can easily manipulate and control those particular emotions. This is a very important aspect in making knowledge sharing more conducive. If employees are not aware of the emotions of other, they may not be aware whether the other employees is feeling more anxious, more shy, or more angry at them. Hence, not sharing particular knowledge set with them. However, if they know particular emotions of the other employees, say for example, they know the other employees is anxious or is less likely to share knowledge with them, they are more likely to encourage them, especially if it's the management, it's more likely to encourage the employees to share knowledge with them through proper incentives or maybe proper training. And that would help in the management of the emotions of those particular employees. So, in an anger episode from a fellow, an immediate response can result in retaliation, which may exacerbate the situation. On the contrary, this anger episode can be managed by allowing the employees to vent and release the anger and then calming them down to discuss the situation. Research has shown that employees who can manage anger episodes in the workplace have a positive impact on the relationships in that workplace. Encouraging positive emotions such as enthusiasm may result in positive emotional contingency amongst employees, which in turn increases the positive interactions between team members and has implications for the management. So basically, when an employee is more aware of the emotions of others, he is going to be able to manage those emotions as well. So these were the individual factors and the organizational factors which affect knowledge sharing. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much for giving us a productive session where we discussed on factors affecting knowledge sharing. Dear friends, if you have any queries or if you want to give your feedback for this particular lecture, then do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. We love to have your feedbacks, and the lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube for you very soon. So keep watching us and keep writing us. We would be meeting again very soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you.